everybody, it's Carrie with Seed to Spoon. Thank you so much for joining us on our podcast, Why We Grow. And today I had the honor of speaking with Lindy from Small Town Garden Life. And we've been following her story for quite a while on Instagram, and she posts all the time on there showing her garden and everything she's learning, and she's quite the inspirational person. And we've recently started following her on TikTok as well. So if you haven't checked her out, make sure that you do. She's super interesting. She's got a great story, quite funny. So I wanted to make sure that I shared it with you today. Well, Lindy, thank you so much for joining us. And it sounds
Hi,
like you have
Carrie.
somebody else with you too.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for having me. Yeah, for any weird noises that you hear, I have my 3-week-old baby down here. So sorry for any crying or grunting or unnecessary noises.
Well, he's very cute, so I'm happy to have him on the podcast too.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm so happy that you're here. It seems like we've been following you for a while on Instagram and then now recently on TikTok because we just joined TikTok. So we found you on there. So I was really happy to see you on there too.
Yes, it's been a long time coming. I'm so glad that you guys are having me. I tell everybody about your app like it's my app. I'm obsessed with it. So
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
of course.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, so my name is Lindy. I live in Illinois and I am a registered nurse by day. But if I had it my way in a perfect world, I would definitely be like flower farming or gardening full time. I'm a mom to 3 boys now. I have twins and then I have my newest addition. And I started my Instagram a few years ago just because I didn't want to annoy my friends and family with my gardening pictures. And then it just kind of gained a little bit of traction from there. And now I have a fun little community that I share everything with, more than just gardening. It's definitely evolved since I first started. So
Wow, it's actually really amazing how similar to me you sound. Like
really?
that's really shocking because I'm a registered nurse also.
Oh,
And I worked at a pediatric hospital. And then actually shockingly am able to do this now full time,
oh,
which
that's
is
amazing.
so I'm living your dream now. I'm sorry.
Oh, Carrie. No, that's wonderful. My husband
Yeah.
literally is like, we need to make an app. And I'm like, there already is one. We can't do better than what they do. They do wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was because of my background in nursing that made me think to do the whole the health benefits section. So
Yes.
that's where I came up with that because I was like I feel like so many people talk to me about like diets and things like that. And I mean that was the reason why Dale and I started growing anyways too, was because we wanted to grow for health. So
Yeah, I love that aspect of your app because it's just like there's so many things that you never even realize. And you can learn so much on there too. Like I'm horrible at pest control and I'm horrible about knowing when to start my plans. And so every time I get on there, it's just like it's like the book that I need, but like directly for my growing zone, which is why I like it. Because I
yeah.
feel like there's a lot of like generalized things, but your guys' app actually it caters it to you, which is so nice because you can't find that anywhere else.
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons I use it every day too. I always joke with everybody and I'm like I honestly use it all the time. And Dale makes these features for me because I request it because I'm like I need this, I need that.
Yes, that's so cool.
Well, so what got you into gardening in the beginning? Has it been something you've done your whole life or
So I grew up with a big family garden, and my mom is a florist by trade. So I grew up surrounded by plants, but I wouldn't say I loved gardening when I was a kid. I don't know if
uh-huh.
any kids that are forced to go out and snap beans and pick cucumbers love it per se. But then when I got into college, I really liked mojitos. This is so it's so ridiculous, but this is legitimately how I started growing food. So I was like, well, I can't afford to buy mint. Like I'm this poor college kid. Maybe I'll just grow some. Um,
That
so
is so funny. I love it.
so when I was in college, I grew like lettuce from scrap, just from like the base of the romaine lettuce and mint. And I had like one house plant. And then as soon as I graduated, I just kind of started year by year getting bigger and bigger. And really once I started Instagram, that's when my love of gardening kind of grew because I realized there was a whole community of people out there that kind of shared the same passion as me, and
Mhm.
it gave me an outlet to talk to people about it too. So yeah, that's
So
kind of how
you've
it
done a
started.
lot of smaller gardening then,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Did you live in dorms? Like, how did you grow this?
I lived in a ginormous house with 8 girls.
Okay,
And we had a big porch, so I just had it like in a pot on the porch.
nice.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a really unique story.
Well, I feel I'm always giggle when people are like, "Oh, we want to hear your like why behind gardening," and most people's is like really heartfelt, and there is a lot of therapeutic things about gardening, but I'm like, well, I wanted to be able to
Hey,
make
mojitos can be
fresh
therapeutic
mojitos,
as well. Just
so
saying. All
it
right.
is therapeutic. Thank you.
You know what? I'm sure anxiety is under mint, right? That's
Uh-huh.
probably something helps with right there.
I know. I think gardening's kind of addicting. I think once you grow one thing, you want to see, well, maybe can I grow this? So then can I grow this? And then soon enough, you're probably doing what you do and have a ginormous garden, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how we started. It was just wanting to grow a couple things, and then suddenly it was, yeah, just explosion of
Mhm.
wanting to try every variety of every different plant. And we're still that way. We have so many different varieties that we're trying out, and I'm really excited about.
Oh, yeah, that's what makes it so fun. And then you can grow stuff that you don't realize you can grow. Like last year, I realized you can grow chickpeas, which,
Oh, yeah.
duh, right? You know, it's a legume, but you're like, wait, I can grow those, you know? So it's just fun to look in your cabinet and see all the different things that you could potentially grow.
I think our most fun plant that we discovered was loofah.
Oh, yeah.
We were so surprised. We're like, you can grow loofah? It was amazing. I
I
was
have
like,
not successfully grown it yet because
oh,
don't you have to have like a longer growing season to do that?
it does good here. We're in Oklahoma, in um, like central Oklahoma in zone 7. And
Okay.
we've grown loofah successfully many times, and it's done really well.
See, I'm zone 6. So I last year I started it indoors really early, like March, and then transplanted it out. And by our first frost, they still weren't mature enough on the inside.
Mm.
And I tried to save them and they all rotted. So I'm like, ah.
Oh, bummer. I'm
It makes
sorry.
me wonder if you just need slightly longer than where I'm at to grow them.
Possibly, yeah, maybe that harvest time is too long for you.
Mm, darn.
Maybe I can send you some of ours that we have. So
Mm.
we have
Yeah.
a few that we started that we're growing right now. So hopefully we're successful here.
Oh, I'm sure you guys will be.
Well, I don't know. We make mistakes too, just like everybody else. I think everybody does.
Oh my gosh, I kill 30 to 40% more things than I successfully grow. And I think that people
Oh
think we're
yeah.
like experts. I'm like, oh no, I just plant a lot of things. So
Yeah,
that way there's
absolutely.
always one surviving at the end, even if I planted 100 of them.
Well, and that's why I always tell everybody about succession planting too. I'm like, make sure you always have rounds going, especially things like beans, zucchini, because we
Mhm.
had a zucchini plant die on us the other day, and I was like, no, a vine borer got it.
Well, and that's the thing too is with are you guys organic gardeners?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes,
feel like sometimes it's easier instead of fighting pests to just like tear the plant out and start with a succession plant because natural things work sometimes. But obviously they're not going to be as effective as chemicals. And you just hate to put that all over your garden, especially when you have little kids running around. Like, I
exactly.
don't want to do that with my toddlers tasting everything in the garden right now. So,
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest reasons too, honestly, that we wanted to grow our own food was so we knew exactly what was going in it. So we didn't want to be spraying all this stuff in it. And yeah.
yep, I'm on the same exact page.
But yeah, I started a bunch of new rounds of zucchini the other day because I was like, I need to have a lot more.
I probably need to do that too. I've just been like every chance I can get, I run out to the garden and just like throw seeds in the wind and just hope something comes up. Since I have all these tiny children right now, I'm like, oh, I don't have time for this, but I want to still grow things.
Yeah. Oh, I feel you. I feel you. So when did you start your Instagram? It seems like you've been on forever, but I don't know.
Oh, I think it was 2019. I think this
Okay.
summer is my third summer that I've posted. 19, 20, 20. Now this will be my fourth summer. So yeah, it feels like forever to me too. Some days I'm like, how have I it's so fun to look back though, because it's a little journal, of
Oh
your
yeah.
growing and your seasons of life, like I have posts where I'm like, yeah, we don't have children, but we'd like to someday, and now I can see I'm like, oh my gosh, we have 3 kids now. It's just so fun to look back and see the progression of life and the garden.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really fun to look back on the memories too of ours, like from when we started to now. Like it's amazing.
When did you guys come out with the app? What year was that?
The app came out 2018, I think, around there. We started growing in like 2015, very small, but
Mhm.
just gradually worked our way up. I say very small. The first year it was very small, and then the next year Dale was like, "We're gonna be building a whole lot more," and he built so many different planters out, and yeah.
And if I'm remembering right, did you guys move semi recently?
Yes, we actually moved at the very beginning of COVID. So it
Okay.
was like the week that COVID lockdown happened,
Oh
here
no.
at least, we were moving.
Did you move like across states, or was it a
No.
small move?
Yeah, it was a small move. We lived in the city in a smaller house and yard and all of that. So it was really good experience learning to grow in the small space.
Yeah.
But we wanted to have more land and have some animals and some space and all of that.
That's the hardest thing about gardening, because right now where we live, we're in a rental, and I so badly
Ooh,
want to. I did put up some garden beds, but I want to do perennial plants and, berries and things like that. But it's like, it's hard when you know you're going to move. So I
yeah.
remember seeing you guys move and being like, oh my gosh, I couldn't, like, you had such an established place and now you're doing it again. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, it wasn't that bad because we had so many smart pots with us.
Uh huh.
I don't know if you remember seeing any of those posts, but we had like trailer loads just filled with these smart pots and plants in them. And we were transporting our plants over to our new house.
Did you move the plants first or your belongings first? What was more important?
I wish I could say it was our belongings, but no, no.
It was the plants.
It was the plants. Those were
I
the most
love
important things to get going, right?
it. Hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I would recommend the smart pots to you if you don't already use them, because then you can bring it with you if you do move soon.
See, that's the problem. We never know. Like with the housing market the way it is, it's like one of those, if you see a house, it could be next week or it could be
Yes.
years from now. So we're like, we don't know. But I do need to start growing in those.
Yeah. So what do you do right now? I know there's probably a lot of people in your same shoes that are in rental houses that can't really do much. So what is
Um,
it that you do?
as far as what I like my growing area,
Yeah, like how you go about growing.
well, we're kind of in a special situation. My father-in-law farms the ground that this house is on.
Okay.
So it's not as strict as far as like putting in garden beds
That's
and things
good.
like that. Like we know the people that own the house. So it's not like this outside person, that we have to
Gotcha.
follow all these rules. So we put in 8 raised beds. Which I thought would help with weed control, which it has a little bit, but I'm not great at weed control. So there's still a lot of
Who
weed.
is, right?
Well, I saw something recently that like if you want to suppress weeds on an open field, you're supposed to put like a black tarp over it during peak growing season when it's super hot. So I guess you're just supposed to take an entire year to like kill all the weed seeds, which I don't know who's going to give up an entire growing year. Have you heard that before?
You know what? We tried that our first year of growing. We tried laying down like all sorts of things, like the weed cloth, like and all of that,
Uh-huh.
and nothing worked for us.
That's
So,
what's happening with me too.
but we did what we ended up doing was the cardboard
Mhm.
with a bunch of wood chips up on top, like piled up on top, and that worked for us. It's just
Okay.
kind of a pain to do that, I guess, but
Well, with the cardboard, do you have to get all of the tape off? Like even the little pieces?
no, I don't ever worry about it.
Oh,
It all gets eaten up by the worms and everything. Like I do my best, but I'm not worried
okay. That makes me
about it.
feel better Because I
Yeah.
thought you had to like get every little piece off, and I'm like, there's no way.
Oh, I know. There's no way. You got to make it as easy as possible for yourself or you won't do it.
Well, that's why I haven't yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
I just can. There's no way I don't have time for this.
Yep. Yeah, and you can tell too, like at our old place, we actually took the time to like lay down cardboard perfectly with the wood chips on top. And then here we were kind of rushed whenever we first moved in because the growing season was already going. And we have like sections where we have a bunch of weeds growing up that we didn't lay down enough cardboard. And yeah, so
Hey,
we're
you know
fighting
what?
it again.
Yeah, next year we're
Yeah,
gonna be
I
right.
know. That's what
What?
we always say. Like it'll get better, right?
Probably, yeah. We'll get better at weeds next year. I tell my husband every year. He's like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, there's just a lot to keep up with, and I would much rather do other things besides weeding.
I think everybody would. That's the problem.
Yeah. So, tell me about your TikTok because I just joined TikTok myself. So, when did you start doing that?
So so Instagram came out with Reels,
Yes.
however long ago. And originally I had got a TikTok because my Instagram Reels always messes up. Like it's either the text on it or I'll edit it and then it'll be gone or whatever. So I was like, I am sick of spending all this time and redoing it. So I just got TikTok as a way of recording and editing videos.
Uh-huh.
And then I live in a town of like 1,000 people. It's super, super small. And we have a few people in our town who actually have like over 100,000 followers on TikTok.
Wow.
So I know I'm like, that's really cool. So I'm like, maybe I should just start posting a little bit more on TikTok. And so I posted a few things and I like didn't put much work into it, didn't really think about it, just kind of was like, I'll just put these out there. And they blew up. And I'm like, okay, wait, I post all these Instagram reels that I like, I've perfectly figured out how I'm going to, record it. And I have the script and 2,000 people see it. And then I post something to TikTok I don't even think anything about. And it's like 500,000 people see it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's potential for growth here. So I just started posting on TikTok, but very casually, like just like you and I are talking, or like I've kind of treated TikTok more like I do Instagram stories where I'm like, hey, I'm in the garden. This is what I'm doing today. And it's super casual compared to Instagram reels.
Hmm.
Um, and since I
Yeah, I
started
love your TikTok videos. I watch them all the time.
well, thanks. Since I started posting, I just like the potential for growth is so much higher on TikTok for me personally than on Instagram. So it's not always all about growth. I mean, obviously you want community as well. But it is fun to finally feel like you're getting something for the work that you're putting in, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are you how are you dabbling in TikTok? Are you posting a lot or are you still just like watching videos?
I've been posting the 3 times a day that's recommended, but
Oh,
I mean
dang.
it's not hard to do because I'm out in the garden so much. So I
Mhm.
really just am recording as I'm doing something, like
Yeah.
recording as I'm planting or as I'm, yeah, yeah,
And people love, I mean, from what I've noticed, people love that on TikTok. And I think they do like how real you can be on TikTok. Because
yeah.
I think Instagram for a while, like you have these perfectly catered
Yes.
squares and reels, like it has to be perfect. Where TikTok, I'm like, man, whatever. Like I'll just throw this out there and see if anyone likes it. And those
I
seem
do
to be the
agree
things
with that.
people like.
Yeah. It definitely is more like manicured on Instagram rather than
Mhm.
TikTok. That's interesting. Yeah, I never would have thought that, but now that you say that, I'm like, yes.
Well, I just don't even feel pressure on TikTok. I'm like, I'll post whenever I want. And like, I don't even think twice when I post something. Where Instagram, I'm not so much anymore. But when I first started, I was more like, oh, what if I say the wrong thing, and it's just not like that on TikTok. So it's refreshing for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and I love the fact too that I can go through and do video responses to questions that people have and comments, things like that. Because
Yes.
I mean, it's a huge time saver too, because rather than me sitting there typing up a response like many times, I can just make a video response and it hits a lot of people that had the same question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I there's a large gardening community on TikTok too. I think that people are joining more and more. So that's been fun to connect with people through there. But also people are meaner on TikTok. Have you noticed?
I
They're meaner.
I've been lucky, maybe. I haven't noticed that at least yet. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, I think it's because I've been on Instagram for like 4 years. And so most of my followers it feels like a little like family, where TikTok, it still feels just like a bunch of strangers. And so I think it's
Yeah.
easier for people to just go through and just be like, oh, I don't agree with that, and just type a quick, snarky little response. But I get a lot of snarky little responses on TikTok that I do not get on Instagram.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Hopefully
That's
that's
okay.
not discouraging.
No, I don't take it personally. I think as nurses, we've been
Yeah.
belittled enough by
Yes.
anyone and everyone that I don't take anything personally.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing I love about YouTube too, is because people say that there's a lot of negative comments on there, but like our community that we have is absolutely amazing. And everybody that posts on there, like I recognize people all the time. I know their names because they go through and they comment all the time. And then we do live streams. And yeah, I love YouTube too.
Is that where you guys are most active, is on YouTube?
Well, I'd say YouTube and TikTok now too, and
Yeah.
Instagram. I mean, I'm really doing everything.
How are you going to take some time off when you have your baby?
Well, we'll see. I don't think so. I'll probably just be working with the baby in my arms, kind of like what
Like,
you're doing right now.
we are all the same. All of us nurses are the same, aren't we?
Yeah, oh yes.
You know, this was my third baby, but my second delivery. And so I had a C-section the first time, and then this time I was able to have him the natural way. And recovery took a lot longer and was a little bit harder than I anticipated. So
Oh,
if you
really?
can, be nice to yourself and rest. But yeah, well,
Yeah.
I thought like not getting a big incision would be easier. And it was harder in different ways.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. My first one was a little rough, and I was hurting for a little bit, but the second one was great.
Oh,
Not
good.
great, but as great as
Walk
it
in the
can
park,
be.
piece of cake.
Yeah. I won't go that far, but I'm hoping this one is good. Goes good.
Oh,
I
it
guess
will.
probably by the time this is out, people will know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's do like a final what do you think, boy or girl? What are you thinking?
I don't even know. I go back and forth so often because there's some days I'm like, oh, it's for sure, girl. And then I'm like, no, no, it's definitely a boy. So
You're not
I
sure?
wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly.
Okay, I'm gonna guess girl. That's my guess.
Okay.
Who
Well,
knows?
I will let you know. You said you're in zone 6, right? That's right.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So what's your favorite thing to grow up there?
Oh gosh.
Hard question, right?
Yeah, you should have messaged me weeks in advance for this one, so I had time to think about it. I love zucchini, but I hate fighting the pests with zucchini, so I'm not gonna go with that. Probably tomatoes, which I think a lot of people love growing, but I just love cherry tomatoes, like in every form.
Yes. Do you have a favorite variety?
No, not
All the
really.
ones. I
I'm
love
not very good at knowing. I'm really good at starting different varieties, but then I don't ever label them once they're in the garden. And so usually it just ends up being like, well, this is a cherry tomato of some sort. So I always say like maybe when I grow up I'll be a better gardener. But it makes me giggle that people even follow my Instagram because I'm like so not I'm bad at pest control. I'm horrible at weeding. I never know what variety I have. Like I don't feel like I'm one that you should like trust in the gardening world. But here we are.
That's funny. I mean, that's how I was. Like, we would have so many different plants growing in the garden, and I would forget to label them, or the labels would get washed off or lost or something. This is
Yeah.
actually the very first year that I feel successful at labeling my plants, which is fantastic. And it's only because Dale ordered like an obscene amount of labels online, and we got this special Sharpie. I mean, it's not a Sharpie, but it's like a special garden marker that's not
Oh,
supposed to wash off in like the sun and the water and all of that. and it has worked so good. So this is actually the first year that I actually have everything labeled, and I know what
That's
things are. It's
awesome.
really cool. Yeah.
How do you keep your kids from stealing them? Like my toddlers are constantly taking anything I put out there. So,
Oh, that's funny. I've never had that problem before.
how old are your babes?
The youngest one right now is 5.
5. And they're like in the garden with you a lot, I would
Oh,
imagine.
yes.
And
Yeah,
they
the
don't
kids
take your
love it.
labels?
Mm-mm.
I think that mine are just feral. I don't think they're just wild. And like I see other kids, I'm like, wow,
Maybe
they're
give them
lovely.
their own labels and let them make their own labels. But then they'll probably go around and label things.
They want to be where I'm at, you know? So
Yeah.
if I give them their own I mean, they just turned 2. So they are not quite in the listening stage, but I give them their own garden bed, but they want to be where I'm at. So unless I'm like digging in their bed, they want to be digging in the bed I'm digging in. So
Aw. Well,
I
do
know.
they eat anything from the garden yet? Have they?
They eat everything.
Really? That's so
Things that
great.
you're not supposed to eat, like
Oh,
dirt and flowers and yeah. They
I
no,
guess
I'm
some
so
edible flowers.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yesterday, they were eating gomphrena, which is I don't know.
It is.
It kinda like a clover. I don't know if it's edible, truthfully, but nobody got sick, so I'm like, "Well, I think we're fine."
That's funny. So how did you get them to eat from the garden? Or was
So,
it just a natural thing?
this is something that I like when I became a mom, it's something I knew, like, I wanted to try my best not to have picky eaters, which I know is not always your choice as a parent. Sometimes it's just the child. But I did baby-led weaning. Have you heard of that?
Well,
It's
no.
nothing like monumental. It's a fancy name basically for saying you feed your babies what you eat. So
Okay.
at 6 months, instead of doing baby food, I fed them like we went straight to food. Like they would gnaw on like a carrot stick or like a
Yeah.
roasted sweet potato or a chunk of steak. So I think introducing them to those textures early on helped. And then I've been bringing them out to the garden with me since they were newborns. So like now they love to hunt for strawberries. And they love to eat the snap peas and, they pick off the tomatoes. And I think just not putting a lot of pressure around food choices. Like I never, like if they were to pick up broccoli, I feel like sometimes people will be like, ew, broccoli, and I make a point no matter what it is to be like, oh, do you like that? And instead of
Hmm.
putting pressure on like vegetables versus fruits versus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what's worked for us. I don't know if it's just my kids or if it would work for everybody, but that was
That's
our
great.
approach.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we did with our younger ones too. I mean, they grew up in the garden, and I mean, it's pretty much all they've known is garden life, going out and picking food and bringing it in. And yeah, we have pictures of our kids, yeah, like you were talking about, gnawing on carrots. And yeah.
That's awesome. That's going to instill like such good values in them too, just knowing where their food comes from. And because a lot of kids don't realize it doesn't come from a grocery store. They don't even know
Yeah.
that it's grown or that it starts out dirty, that like blows people's mind.
Yeah, and well, I guess she just turned 7, but she's actually made several videos also because she wanted
Oh,
to make videos for kids to show them how to garden too.
yes.
I was like, awesome. You go for
That's so sweet. I'm gonna have to show my guys that when they get a little bit bigger.
it. Yeah, yeah, she loves it. Like, loves going out there, taking care of her plants. Now, the younger boy, like, he will go out there and check on his strawberries. That's his favorite thing in the world. But yeah, that's about all I can get him to do right now.
Oh, I know. I'm so sad thinking about the day that they get bigger. And I mean, I'm never going to force them to be out there with me, but right now I can. So I'm like, oh, they love the garden. Where, I know in a few years they might be like, Mom, we don't want to go out there with you. That'll be a heartbreaking day.
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, they still love it at the ages they are now. So
Oh, good.
we
Thank
still
goodness.
have a while left to go.
All right. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I know that's something that people reach out to us all the time about is how to encourage their kids to get involved and all of that. And that's, I mean, pretty much what you said. That's what I always tell them.
That's like the majority of people that want to work with me. I feel like it's a lot of like, show your kids in the garden, show how you get your kids. And I always struggle with social media, like putting your kids on social media. Like I share mine in my stories, but I don't really post them to like my permanent feed very often.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh, I just don't know if I, like I love to give advice, but I don't know if I like should use them. I don't know. How do you feel about that with your kids and being a public platform?
Oh, I fully understand. I mean, I do whatever they want to do, though. I mean, and I know that's difficult because they are really young, so they don't understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they want to be in a video with me, I'm not going to tell them no. So
Right.
I'm always like, yeah, sure, come on in. You know.
Yeah, that's different than being like, "No, you have to do this video,"
Oh yeah, yeah.
which obviously you would never do, but
No, I've made several videos with them about like there was one time I was starting a bunch of seeds indoors and they were begging to be in the video. I was like, okay, well, we'll do one at a time. I'll do these plants with you, these plants with you.
oh, that's gonna be so fun to look back on though and have that memory, that in
Yeah.
video form.
Yeah. Well, and we get so many positive comments too from viewers with kids and about how they show their kids the videos and then it really helps them to want to do the same things. And
Yeah,
well, I think seeing other kids gardening is really inspirational for others too.
I'm sure it is. I never thought about that, but that's a really good point.
Yeah. So, do your kids have anything special that they love to do out there or anything they love to grow?
Um, well, I don't think they fully comprehend most of that yet, but they
Yeah.
love like when we go outside, they're like beelining to the strawberries, like yours is. They love to go out. I mean, I did not bring a single strawberry inside this year, and I don't think I will for years to come.
Yes. Yeah.
But
It's
what a
been
good
a very
problem.
long time since I have.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
Do you guys have other berries as well or just strawberries?
We do. We have, well, we planted some blueberries, but we haven't gotten a lot of blueberries yet. We used to have a huge blackberry bush at our old place, but unfortunately, we had to leave that behind because it was in the ground.
Hmm.
But we're growing blackberries again, but we haven't gotten harvest from it yet. But and then we have gooseberries. Those are
Gooseberry.
interesting. Yeah.
What's that?
They're, gosh, I don't even know how to describe them. They're, I don't know how to describe them. It was one that I had literally never heard of until we made the app and somebody had asked us to put gooseberries in. So I was like, gooseberries. So I had to look it up and I was like, well, I need to try to grow it myself. So I put it in a smart pot, oh gosh, like 4 years ago now, probably. And I
Oh,
brought it over to the new house too because it was in its own pot. And
yeah.
it's done really well. It gives like little tiny they almost look like melons, but they're smaller berry looking thing. Like
Oh,
they're very interesting, but they taste really good. I like them.
I need to Google those.
Yeah, it's one that I had never heard of before all this. So
Okay, now speaking of your app again, have you guys considered adding flowers? Like more than just like marigolds because people ask me all the time about flowers and it's so hard to give advice because there's so many different growing zones and like I don't know what you do in
yes.
7 versus 4.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if you
We
ever
are
will.
going to be adding more, and there's actually more coming soon. I think zinnias are already in there. They just need to be, we just have to do a few finishing touches. So we'll probably do like the more common flowers and
Yeah.
things that are technically edible, you
Yes.
know. So that way we can still stick with a whole like from seed to spoon thing without branching out and doing like thousands of flowers, you know.
Well, and you hate to do a flower and then have people eat it because they assume it's edible, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, wait, no."
Yeah, so we're gonna try and stick with just the flowers that are technically edible, even though people are probably not growing them for the edible purposes, but still.
Well, that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to that and to learning a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because I love growing like zinnias and I grow a lot of different flowers. I love them. So those ones were definitely ones that I wanted to get added to.
Well, people are going to love your app even more.
Well, that's great. So maybe you want to leave us with one of your biggest tips, advice for the audience.
Oh, I would love to. Okay, my biggest piece of advice, if you're thinking about starting a garden, is just start somewhere. I think Instagram sometimes makes it feel like you have to have like this perfectly curated Instagram garden, and you totally don't. Like throw one tomato plant and one pepper plant into a smart pot or whatever it is that you have and start there. And then the year after is when you can go crazy like we did. So
I love that. That is so true. Start small. And yeah, I always tell people too, I'm like, just grow what you eat, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's great advice. Not to get too overwhelmed with making everything look pretty and
Yep.
yeah.
Just grow it first and do the fun stuff after you've learned how to grow. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about all the social platforms that you're on so people can follow you.
yes. So I post mostly on Instagram. It's just at Small Town Garden Life. And then I'm also active on TikTok. And I do have a YouTube. I haven't found time to post on it in like over a year. Maybe I'll get back on it. But they're all just at Small Town Garden Life. So
Okay. I'll have to check out your YouTube. I didn't know you were on YouTube.
I am. It's like I said, it's very sporadic,
Yeah. Yeah.
but got to start small. Got to start somewhere. One video a year, maybe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I highly recommend to anybody who's out there to make sure you follow Lindy because your posts are they're inspirational, educational, and fun, like all in one, I feel like.
Oh,
It's fun.
well,
I like
thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me too. It was so nice to talk with you.
Yeah, it's been really fun. And hopefully we will do this again sometime. And I will keep you updated on if it's a boy or
Oh,
a girl. So
best of luck. I hope it goes fast and it's pain free, right?
thank you. Yes,
Great.
absolutely.
All
Well,
right,
thank
Carrie.
you
I will
so
talk to you
much.
soon.
Okay.
Thank you.